The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
Franz Wagner has simply become undeniable.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast.
No game can be distilled to one moment. You know, we're going to talk about it, obviously, but a game is 48 minutes long. You know, LeBron James sat in his locker after the game and said, we didn't lose the game because of the free throws. We lost the game because of the third quarter when we let the Magic back in the game. But this is Hollywood. This is the Lakers we're talking about. This is Showtime. It said the Lake Show on their jerseys and on the court, on their City Edition court. This is about the story. This is about the narrative. This is about the flash, the glitz, the glam, and the moment we're all going to remember. Franz Wagner has been incredible for the last 3 weeks since Paolo Banchero's injury. He is going to San Francisco. And if you didn't believe that before Thursday's game against the Los Angeles Lakers, you certainly believe it after. Because like a Heisman winner needing a defining play to roll on the highlight reel, Franz Wagner got his play. Franz Wagner got his moment, and on a spotlight that matters. Not a national TV game, and the NBA is afraid to schedule against the NFL on Amazon Prime, on their new partner on Amazon Prime. But in a statement building against a premier franchise, against 2 all-time legends, Franz Wagner is the story. And it would be one thing if he just made the game-winning shot, which he made the game-winning shot with 2 seconds left. It's that he did everything that led up to it. A game is not about a singular moment, but a singular moment can define a game. And Franz Wagner's game-winning step-back 3 with 2 seconds left, when he got the switch to Cam Reddish, when he looked Cam Reddish dead in the eye, trying to rock him to sleep, trying to find a way into the paint to just tie the game, and then seeing none and seeing the clock ticking down, stepped back from 28 feet, well behind the three-point line, and drained that 3, giving the Magic a 119-118 win, thanks to a Jonathan Isaac contest on Anthony Davis. The Lakers didn't have an answer. The Magic very well may have stolen one, and you may go listen to our friends at Locked On Lakers, and they will lament those missed free throws. 4 missed free throws in the final 40 seconds that left the door open. But the Magic still had to burst their way through. Franz Wagner still had to burst his way through. This was a ballsy shot. Plain and simple. This was not a good shot. This was not a good look. This was an I am going to win the game kind of shot. And in a game where Anthony Davis and LeBron James put in true all-star performances, 39 points, 9 rebounds for Anthony Davis. 31 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists for LeBron James. Really, really good stuff from those two. The Magic had no answers for them. The Lakers had no answers for Franz Wagner. 37 points, 13 for 26 shooting, 4 for 10 from 3, 7 for 8 from the foul line, 6 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 steals as well. The Magic weren't going down. Franz Wagner wasn't going down. He scored 15 points in the fourth quarter alone. He scored 13 in the Magic's final 21 points. Assisted on one more, or a couple more after that. He hit every big shot, made every big play down the stretch, staring down LeBron James and Anthony Davis and the big plays that they made. LeBron went on a 10-0 run to flip this game on its head. He scored 3 straight three-pointers. Anthony Davis added a free throw. that turned the Magic lead into a 7-point deficit, put the Magic in the hole. It was LeBron James who got an offensive rebound to put the Magic back down 3 late in the game. It was, or put the Magic back down 1 late in the game. It was LeBron James, after a miss by the Magic, finding Anthony Davis on a touchdown pass, on a leak out touchdown pass. The Lakers, neither team was perfect. Let's make that clear. The Lakers put themselves in prime position to win. Their 2 superstar players played like freaking superstars. But the Magic answered. The Magic never relented. The Magic never stopped. Franz Wagner kept coming back at them. Jalen Suggs said the moment felt like a movie, especially with how the Magic lost to the Lakers last year, a little bit earlier in the season on Halloween last year, but almost a little bit more than a year ago. Wagner continued to set so much history as well, becoming the 3rd Magic player to score 35 points and 10 assists in a game, Jordy Penny Hardaway and Tracy McGrady, and be the youngest forward to do that since LeBron James in 2007. If you want to know what the star leap looks like, this is it. This is what an all-star does. And it was never promised or guaranteed that this is what he would be. Remember, he shot 28% from 3 last year. For him to hit a critical 3-pointer, for him to be, 4 for 10 on threes in a game, to take 10 threes in a game, tells you how much he has grown. But I think Jamal Mosley really said it best after the game. With Paolo Banchero out, the Magic have asked Franz Wagner to be uncomfortable. They are pushing him to be uncomfortable. His team needs him to do the things he is uncomfortable doing. For 3 years, so many Magic fans have complained about how few shot attempts he gets, how unassertive Franz can be, and how he doesn't carry himself like a star. Well, take Paolo Banchero off the team for a month and a half at least, and the Magic turned to Franz and said, you got to be this. You've got to do this if we want to win. And Franz has embraced it all. Franz has grown into it all. He has become a star. We all knew he had it in him. We all believed he would be an all-star eventually. But he has truly become every embodiment of that word. And on a night when Anthony Davis and LeBron James were playing like superstars themselves, you had to put Franz Wagner in the same sentence. Like I said, a game is not defined by a singular moment. Or a game is 48 minutes of every possession mattering, and every moment, every run, the ups and downs. It is about all of that. Franz Wagner's 3 was just one incredible play of a series of great plays from the young Magic forward. But a moment can define a game. It can set the story. It can set the narrative. It can be the storyline that we remember, that reminds us of this is what this game was about. I look for it all the time. That's how I like to lead my articles, is let me find a moment that exemplifies a larger point about this game. Franz Wagner stepped up when time was ticking and delivered a win. That's what stars do. And at the end of the day, as much as impressive as Anthony Davis' stat line is, as impressive as LeBron's stat line is, or that dunk he had over Jonathan Isaac in the second quarter, as impressive as all that is, ultimately stars deliver wins. And Franz Wagner delivered a win. Put that pencil away, put it in ink. Franz Wagner's going to San Francisco for All-Star Weekend in February. He is a true star in this league, and the reason why the Magic can still accomplish every single one of their goals and so much more. This was a gutsy win by the team. It is not just on Franz, but very clearly this team is defined by what Franz does.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
The Charlotte Hornets pick up a win again against the Pistons, and again in dramatic fashion. Brandon.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast.
The Hornets win 123-121 in OT. LaMelo Ball, what was his response going to be after getting benched in the fourth quarter against the Nets? It was a good one offensively, 35 points, 12 of 27, only 4 of 14 from distance, but he got to the foul line, hit 7 of his 8 free throw attempts, dished out 9 assists, only 2 turnovers, Doug, and did not have any turnovers, I think, for a while in this game. So LaMelo responded well. We'll get to the fouling with LaMelo. If we were to lead with one certain story, and there's a couple that are in contention, I think we got to go with Brandon again. Again, meaning the fact that he tapped it in at the buzzer against the Pistons last time. Here he is just putting the stake right into the heart of Pistons fans. 38 points, 15 of 26, hit 8 3-pointers. So the 38 points that he scored, career high. The 8 3-pointers that he made, also a career high. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and an OT. Brandon really stepped up when LaMelo Ball was over on the bench because he fouled out very, very, very early into OT.
But we're not going to talk about that yet. We're going to keep it positive. We're going to talk about Brandon Miller, and the 2 threes that he hit in overtime were absurd. They were astounding. They were confounding. I mean, particularly the one that he hit when it was a baseline out of bounds play because the shot clock was down to just like a second. I mean, there was just enough time to catch and shoot. And Grant sets up a great screen, gets Brandon Miller open. Cody Martin throws a perfect rainbow pass to get it up over top of the defense. Brandon catches, but he still has to fall away to take the shot, knocks it down. And then just the second one was just straight up and down, shooting over the top of his man. But it was a deep 3. He was incredible. 15 points between the fourth quarter and overtime. And then again, once LaMelo Ball goes out, you're wondering, is Brandon Miller going to have enough to step up and lead this team? And he did it. And he did it offensively, as I just said, but he did it defensively, snatching a lob attempt by Jaden Ivey out of the air. I went and watched that play a couple of times. All the things that it takes to make that play. You've got to have the athleticism to jump up and grab the ball. You've got to have the timing because this was a transition play and he's running behind the play and somehow gets in front of the lob pass. Like I ran out of words, and that doesn't happen very often to me. And it's not great when you're trying to write a newsletter about it. But I ran out of words to describe what I was seeing from Brandon Miller last night.
No, that play was crazy because if I remember correctly, I haven't looked at a clip of it yet, but even just in real time, he jumps off 1 foot. He has to sprint to his spot. It's an effort play too, right? Everything that you mentioned, you have to check off all the boxes. Not only do you have to have the timing and the athleticism, you have to have the all-out want to in order to get that pass. And especially to think about, you mentioned the timing, you have to jump early enough to get a full hand on that basketball, or else you're just looking to tip it. That's all Brandon is looking to do, is disrupt the pass, disrupt the flight of that. And sure enough, he grabs it, and that is so much cooler than swatting it into the fifth row, even though that would be awesome.
It's
as well.
Smarter. I mean, it's smart because you get the possession.
That's the KG Bill Russell thing, right? Like, say, why would I swat it when I can get the possession for my team? You kind of luck into that stuff. It's like, oh, okay, I can grab it. Sweet, let's go ahead and roll with it. But it was luck created by his skill, athleticism, and all-out effort, which was fun to see. Brandon was incredible. The threes. Doug, that was the splashiest of splashes, the out-of-bounds play to create the second to last three that he hit. I mean, that was you talk about nothing but net. It's what the designs on the shirt are when they give you the basketball going through the hoop. Nothing but net. I don't know if you remember those shirts, but that's what the design looked like to me watching that go through the hoop. Brandon was incredible with the shot making, and he's been very good at the shot making the last two games. this is after we were, I don't know about how worried we were. I was not worried, but there were people discussing how he was not hitting his shots, the mid-range, getting to the rim, yada, yada. Maybe there's some stuff there later on, but he's hitting his shots right now, and he's hitting a bunch of three-pointers. It helped him a ton last night. They needed every single bit of his positive performance.
Yeah, and he was aggressive, particularly at the beginning of the fourth quarter before LaMelo checked in, and then in overtime once LaMelo fouled out. He was aggressive. And then, after the game, several questions going Brandon Miller's way and to Coach Lee and to LaMelo, essentially like, are you asking Brandon to be more aggressive? And the answer is yes. The coaches, his teammates, they're all asking Brandon, hey, listen, we know that you're a winner. We know that you love to set things up for your other teammates. All of that is great. But sometimes you are such a great scorer. Sometimes we need you to take the basketball and go make a play. And that's probably somewhat scary for like every player, because there are all these sort of milestones or checklists that you have to check off as you ascend the ladder from, good NBA player to great NBA player to star NBA player to all star NBA player to superstar NBA player. And one of those milestones is, can you, when the defense knows that you're the guy that they're going to go to, can you make a play despite that? And he was able to do that several times in this game. But that's got to be a scary thing. I'm glad he picked up the aggression late in the game.
Yeah, Charles Lee also said after the game, Brandon also, he was reminded that he likes putting those shots up, so you don't have to push him too hard. So you got to push him, but once he lets a couple shots fly and they go in, you don't have to push him too hard after that. But it's all true. I'm glad Brandon was able to bring this team to a victory, because he did so offensively and even defensively with a couple of plays late in this game.
And he's a second-year player. It's not unusual to have to push a guy like that. Some players do come in to the league, particularly when they're drafted high, and they think, I'm the guy. I've already got the crown on my head. I'm ready to go. And then some guys don't. And I think that's okay, because once he gets his max deal, once he gets his extension, there's going to be no question at that point. There are hierarchies to this whole thing. And I think what you're seeing play out right now is that there is a clear hierarchy on this team. And it's, we're going to LaMelo first. And then if LaMelo takes himself out of the game, then we'll go to Brandon more exclusively. I'd like to see that balance be a little bit more balanced instead of it being sort of like one guy does everything and then the other guy does everything. I think they've got to figure that out. But, and part of that process might be pushing Brandon again to say, all right, I need you to take over this possession. I need you to demand to take over this possession late in the game.
Yeah, I mean, we're focusing on the good. I think part of that also is, how much do you trust the basketball in the hands of Brandon Miller to create anything outside of one dribble, two dribble shoot?
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That winning $5 bet could be on some Week 12 action. We mentioned the Commanders heavily favored over the Cowboys. Well, FanDuel, that's a big number. Washington is laying 10.5 against Dallas. It is crazy how bad this year has gone for the Cowboys, but no one's that sad about it. Visit FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Luka Doncic is out. The Dallas Mavericks announced today that an MRI revealed a right wrist sprain for guard Luka Doncic. Doncic sustained injury during the Mavs game against the quote-unquote New Orleans Pelicans on Tuesday, and Luka will be reevaluated within a week. First of all, this is just how the season has gone so far, that Luka comes back for that game against the Pelicans. They didn't really need him at all, and then he gets hurt in that game against a team that's not really a basketball team because of how many injuries the Pelicans have had. And now he's going to be out for a week. It just seems like the Mavs' luck right now so far this season.
Yeah, I thought the win against the Thunder kind of bought them some time to think, okay, let's go back home before we go to Denver on Friday. We'll let him rest there and then have him ready for the game against Denver because you were able to get a nice win on the road against the Thunder. PJ Washington was fantastic. And against a Pelicans team that, a quote unquote Pelicans team, as you mentioned, with no one in sight that you recognize on that team hardly.
It's just respectful to them, right? Because you can't just keep saying it's the Pelicans because it's not. They started
really
Elfrid Payton the other day. Elfrid Payton, Kevin.
He's back in the league?
He started for that the other day.
The Pelicans are so down bad. Like, I don't want to laugh at them, but they are down bad.
You can't. It's bad.
But
season from hell.
No, really, it is kind of like the Cowboys, but whatever.
Ooh.
But at the same time, I thought that maybe you could rest Luka against the Pelicans and get him ready for Friday against the Nuggets, but that was not the case. He played okay. I mean, the Mavericks won by 41 points, so shout out to Dirk.
Great.
But at the same time, now you're dealing with yet another injury, and this has been a season so far for him, whether it's a knee contusion or the calf injury before the season started. Oh. And now the wrist injuries that's going to keep him out at least a week. It just felt like as this team was just about to start getting some rhythm after a 4-game losing streak, you win 3 in a row, you're starting to feel good. The vibes are starting to pick up a little bit, that you can gain some consistency going forward here. And now their superstar is going to be out for at least a week. So it doesn't feel like this team is able to get the kind of traction even through the first 15 games of the season that they were hoping for. Based on what you needed to do in the West at this point.
They can't get traction as a team, but I think some guys could get going. So we'll talk about some of those a little bit later. But just for Luka himself and for the team now, so a wrist injury is not super concerning, right? That's not something that I'm looking at going, oh, it's the same as, calf strain, and I'm worried about it throughout the rest of the year. Our friend Jeff Stotts, who's at In Street Clothes on Twitter and a bunch of places, he said, keyword is sprain, indicating the injury occurred to one of the many ligaments in the wrist. There's a high degree of variability in these types of injuries. However, the average time lost for a nondescript in-season wrist sprain is 5.9 days. So about 2 games. So they're keeping him for a week, which is about right. Maybe it's a little more serious than some others, but keeping him out for a week. Honestly, Kevin, I don't know where you stand on this, but for me, he probably needs a little more time because his knees and legs, it was not right. And you could tell throughout the beginning of this season. And so maybe this buys him a little bit more rest.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you're looking for any kind of silver lining,
I am,
if you are, which you clearly are, he'll be able to rest his body a little bit. And hopefully when he comes back, the legs will be fresher. Obviously the wrist will be healed up and he can finally, as Jason Kidd kind of talked about it, kind of be clean for the rest of the year and really get this thing rolling, because the way that the West is playing right now, you can't find yourself having multiple, 2 and 3 game losing streaks. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in an uphill climb for a real majority of the season. But, for Luka, hopefully he'll be able to get back quickly, but also be healthy for a good portion of the remainder of the season, because they're going to need him, obviously, to try to have the season that they're hoping to have.
Yeah, you're not gonna learn a lot about the Mavs as a whole in this upcoming stretch of games, right? Like I'm not gonna take any huge opinions or takes from any of this because it's not the team without Luka, right? So many things are built around him, and we've been talking about the whole beginning of the season. He has not been his MVP level self, and so we still can't evaluate this team as like they're fully constructed. That's it. Let's make some trades now because they're not good enough, right? We haven't seen that team yet, and so now again for like another week, we're gonna have to say the same thing because he's gonna be out.
And I'll push back a little bit because I feel like and we'll obviously get into some of those players, but there's opportunities for guys like Quentin Grimes, like Jaden Hardy, and others to be able to show that during this time without Luka, that they can handle a little bit bigger role and responsibility, so that by the time Luka comes back, you have that much more trust and confidence in those guys to be able to play well in the roles that they're going to be asked to play once Luka is healthy. So I feel like there's a real chance for a lot of guys to really get together some good games that you can feel good about them when you get deeper into the season, hopefully into the playoffs, about, hey, I can trust Jaden, I can trust Quinn, I can trust these guys in certain situations when Luka is there and fully healthy for this team. So we'll see how those guys take that opportunity here, I guess.
Next couple of games for the Mavericks, if we just want to look at the schedule. Today, if you're listening to this on Friday, they play at the Nuggets, which is a game that they kind of, I think, had circled because they had lost before that. I know Kyrie had mentioned that game. They had lost the Nuggets already in that another clutch loss.
That's
Aaron
right.
Gordon is going to be out for that game for the Nuggets. And then Nikola Jokic, story about him is he's been out for the last 3 games, and he also missed practice on Thursday for the Nuggets. And so we're not sure the status of him. He's been out with personal reasons. Some people have speculated that his wife had triplets or had kids or something like that. I don't know what's going on with him. And I think I've also seen people say, like, we're not asking because it's a personal matter to him. So whatever it is for Jokic, it seems like he may not play. He's listed as questionable right now, but we'll see. If Jokic is not playing, that's a different Denver Nuggets team, like entirely. It becomes one of those, like, I wouldn't say like a must win. It wasn't as must win as like the New Orleans or that Spurs game without Wemby, where you're just like, if this team does not beat this team with the roster, the talent that they have. But it is a game where you're like, all right, that's a more winnable game. That's a game that you should go in and take care of business.
Yeah, and obviously you wish you had Luka to be able to try and do that, but at the same time, the way that the Mavericks were able to play, especially against the Thunder, you've got size, you've got some quickness with some guys, like Lively, and especially in the open floor, that hopefully you can take advantage of some of that. I mean, Denver may try to get you into a track meet and get you up and down the floor. I think the score of the game that they played, 10, 12 days ago was like 122 to 120. So it was a very high scoring game, getting up and down. Denver made some threes in that game. Michael Porter Jr. was good in the first half, not great in the second half. In fact, the bucket that he scored to give them the lead, with less than 7 seconds left, was his only bucket in the second half against the Mavericks. So they did a good job of bottling him up until that point. But at the same time, you've got formulas and paths to beat a Nuggets team as you begin this road trip.
It's a lot of Dario Saric. It's a lot of Dario Saric on that Nuggets team with him out. Dario Saric, you're going to see a lot of Westbrook. It's going to be a lot of that.
Christian Brown's been playing real well for them. These guys that I really like for them. He's been playing really well with this team for them.
Those are the good players for them. I was talking about the ones where you're like, this is the players stepping up for the Nuggets right now. Oof,
That's right, exactly.
And so it's done. Denver, which that is an NBA Cup game too. That's something that we should mention as well. This game on Friday. And so that one is notable. And then they play a travel back-to-back, Miami and Atlanta. Those will be both without Luka. Those two games are interesting because it's a back-to-back. We'll see what happens. Those two teams have been frisky, but they have not been like good necessarily yet this season. And then they play home against the Knicks. That team's offense has been really awesome, but they haven't like hit the highs that we thought that Knicks team with that level of talent have hit. I think the Mavs offense is going to struggle to keep up with that Knicks team, but we'll see what happens. It'll be a good test for them.
Yeah, they got 7 of their next 9 games on the road. So against some teams that you look at and say, well, you got Portland in there. You mentioned Miami, Atlanta. You've got some games that you feel are very winnable for you to be able to stack up while you're away from the American Airlines Center. But at the same time, you got to go out and execute. Fortunately for the Mavericks, they've been whooping up on bad teams and not so good against good teams. This stretch, you're going to see a lot of quote-unquote bad teams. So you've got to take advantage of that if you're the Mavericks, who have been able to do that so far through the other portion, or early portion of the year, I should say.
So if you're bummed out about Luka's injury, 2 silver linings, since Kevin mentioned that if you want to take something positive, I do. Here's the positive. Luka gets a little bit more rest for his lower leg injuries that have been plaguing him even back to last season. Hopefully that helps him a little. And then your schedule is pretty soft. That Knicks team is tough, but Denver without Jokic possibly, definitely without Gordon, Miami, Atlanta, those are not super tough opponents. And then Luka could be back Saturday against the Jazz. Then it's Jazz, Portland, injured Memphis team, Washington Wizards, and Toronto. That's a really, really, that's the road schedule Kevin just talked about, but it is pretty soft.